Okay, everyone. We are ready to go. Everyone, we're holding now. This is our third presentation. Let's get started because we're running a little bit off the clock, and let's get it moving. Okay, however, we need everyone. We have to move ahead. Okay. Thank you. Okay, thank you. Been a lot of good students here today, sitting really well. A lot to learn, a lot to digest. Okay, we're going back to the subject of Techiyas Hameisim, and today I just want to introduce. Today is the yard site of the Holy Ariza, as mentioned earlier, and in that sense, part of our discussion today is going to be reincarnation. Only regards only a little teeny tidbit of that, as it applies to Techiyas Hameisim. And Techiyas Hameisim is really the resurrection is really a subject belonging to the realm of the mystical. Obviously, you're dealing with things that are far more discussed in the mystical realm of Torah than it is discussed in the revealed realm of Torah. A lot of things that are left by the Rishonim, like Rabbi Sauer discussed, untied and not dealt with once they discovered the book of Zohar. Although it predates the Rishonim, the book of Zohar is written by Rav Shimon Bar Yochai, but it only appeared about 1,000 years after it was written from manuscripts. We have a lot of clarity in things we didn't know. So it only is appropriate that on the holy day of the Arizal's yard site, we should be discussing Techiyas Hameisim. And so much of it is going to be using the Holy Arizal. I'll begin with a very, very Geshmaka story. A very beautiful story pertaining to the Arizal when the Arizal was still living in Egypt. So there's a sefer called Kitzvei Reb Chaim Avram Bechovsky. It's got fascinating stuff. This was a chassid three generations ago. I think he was a Kapuster chassid. And he has a whole section on the Arizal's yard site. One of the fascinating things he says is that we know Reb Shimon Bar Yochai, the sphera of when he passes away is Hoyt Shabbat. That means in Sphira Omer every day it's Chesed Shabbat Chesed. We all say these tikkunim. For whatever reason, not going into right now, that the mystic Reb Shimon Bar Yochai is the father of mysticism. Not the father, but is the greatest Kabbalist. So Reb Shimon Bar Yochai passes away on a Hoyt Shabbat. And there's a lot discussed what the reason is that that's the sphera of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai's passing. He says in some way the Arizal also passed away on Hoyt Shabbat. Why? Because when you count the spheres, Chesed, Gevura, Teferet, Netzach, Hod. Hod is the fifth sphere, it's number 5. Nisan, Iyar, Sivan, Tammuz, Av is the 5th month, so it corresponds to Sphira Sahod. And it's the 5th day of the month of Av, so it's Hoyt Shabbat. So you have the same stalkus of Reb Shimon Bar Yochai and the Arizal. And they're neighbors, obviously. One is buried in Tzfas, the other one is buried in Haran, pretty close to each other. That's the Galil, that's where the power of Ruach, of spirit. The 4 holy cities in Israel correspond to Eish, Mayim, Ruach, and Afar. Earth is Hebron, where we have ultimate burial site. And fire is the Beis Hamikdash, where the fire of heaven came down. To Tiberias is the water, the Kinneret, which we just learned about yesterday in the Chumash. It mentions the Kinneret, and then finally, Tzfas is the windy city, the eerie city up in the mountain, the mystics, the Kabbalists. So, and Rav Shimon Bar Yochai is also in the Galil, and both of them are nostalgic on Hoyt Shabbat. But here's a story, fascinating story that he brings between an event that happened with the Yamshel Shloima. The Marshal. The Marshal, and who's a cousin of the Holy Ari who lived in Poland. The Marshal, however, was he was a rabbi and a staunch opponent to his second or third cousin, the Ariza. Their both last names are Luria. And yet the Marshal and the Arizal were, because the Marshal was very, very opposed against the spreading of Kabbalah. And the Ariza obviously was the one who said that it's a mitzvah to spread these teachings, that all the limitations on the study of Kabbalah that were in the early generations, because we're so close to Mashiach, these restrictions are now removed. And quite on the contrary, we're supposed to flood the world with these mystical teachings. So here's an interesting story. There was a couple that got married in Poland. It was very wealthy. The girl was very wealthy. And she brought in 100,000 gold coins to her new chassan when she got married. That was the dowry. He used to give a dowry for the son-in-law. So the son-in-law got 100,000 gold coins. It was a fortune. Now the halacha is, this was at the takana of Rabbeinu Tam. Rabbeinu Tam, one of the Balei Tosfos, made a takana that if a person gets married and give a nadin, like it was a custom to give for the son-in-law, and then she passes away before they live together for a year. Something happened, the girl passed away. So this would be like a way. It's a way that a person can rob the father-in-law. He stays with the dowry now. He stays with $1 million, and he wasn't even married for her for more than 2 months and whatever. So Rabbeinu Tam made a takana that less than a year, if there's no children. If there's children, it goes to the yari. But if there's no children and she passes away, then the transaction is canceled. The monies must go back. And this was the story that happened. This girl passed away within the year, and now the father-in-law wanted the money back. Problem was that the couple had moved. Actually, the chassan was from Cairo. He was either he was from Cairo or he moved to Cairo. I'm not exactly sure after his wedding. It seems from the story as I read it that he actually was from Cairo. How did a man from Cairo meet a Polish girl? People traveled in those days as well. In any case, this was a mixed shidduch, Sephardi Ashkenazi. So he wanted the money. The father-in-law wanted the money back from the son-in-law. The son-in-law's argument was, I hear what you say that the takana of Rabbeinu Tam, but Rabbeinu Tam was an Ashkenazic rabbi, and therefore he's the leader for Ashkenazic Jewry. But I'm Sephardic, and the Sephardic had never accepted this takana. This has never been the minhag amongst the Sephardic. In those days, it was very local, and therefore we don't have that custom, and therefore I can keep the money. And it was back and forth, and he decided they want to go to Din Torah. So the son-in-law wanted to go to Din Torah to a rabbi in Cairo. Obviously, the father-in-law wanted to go to Din Torah to a rabbi in Poland. It was finally they settled they'll bring it to the Ariza. Why? Because the Ariza was known as Rabbi Yitzchak Luzi or the Yitzchak Ashkenazi. So he lived in Mitzrayim, he lived in Cairo in those days, but because he was Ashkenazi, they figured that would be a kind of a good situation where they can kind of agreed to come to the Ari. The father-in-law agreed. He traveled to Cairo and came to the Ariza. Now, what happened was before he traveled, he went and he got letters from all the rabbis in Poland, hopefully going to persuade the Ariza, the rabbi who's going to be given the psak din, that the halacha, that this is the way we do it over here in Poland, so the monies have to go back. And he went to the marshal and he got like a 20-page, tshuva on him, and he comes. He brings it to the Arizal, and the Arizal says like this. The Arizal says, I'm not gonna judge this case. They said, well, we settled that you're coming to. They finally agreed on one person. The Arizal says on the one condition, you both have to sign it. There's no, once I give my psak, this is the way it is. There's no, you have to accept it. Okay, so they both sign that the psak is going to be adhered to. Fine, after that, the Arizal goes and paskins that the man does not have to give back the money. The son-in-law can keep the money, he doesn't have to give it back. And the man was very distraught. He just lost. He was very, very, very distraught. And he says to the Arizal, okay, I accept it. But at least I want to know, give me the basis for your psak. The halach is that you're allowed to ask a rabbi, what's your basis? So give me your basis, give me your tshuva, write it down for me. I have all these files that I brought for you over here. That all the Rabbanim are saying this is the way it has to be, and you so at least give me. So he expected the Ariza was going to write him a long tshuva. The Ariza asked him for a tiny little paper, a little post-it note, and the Ariza wrote on it, "Ve'ela hamishpatim shetasim lifneim." That was the whole answer. quoting the first pasuk in Sefer Parshas Mishpatim, these are the Mishpatim that you should put before him, and he sent them back. He couldn't believe it. Okay, he came back and he starts. Obviously, he's so upset, so he starts speaking about this young. The Ariza passed away when he was 37 years old. So this was the Ariza was about 35 years old. This young rabbi over there he's making a joke, he's making out a mockery of all the great poskim in Poland, and he's whatever. Anyways, this added a lot of this, and again, there was already a lot of buzzing against the Arizal at that point, and yet with this story added a lot of fuel to the fire. And the Marshal was very upset. Like, what is he even saying? You ask him to give a defense, and he's giving the Elam Mishpatim Mashatasim Lufneim. Anyways, so there was a big commotion, and in the end, they sent to the Arizal that he has to explain himself. So the Arizal said as follows. There were shluchim that came, he brings in the story, shluchim came back, the Arizal sent messengers to Poland, and this is the story. Again, they couldn't answer quickly with an email and all that. They had to travel and bring the whole situation. And the Arizal says 20 years ago, there were two people that set sail on a boat, and they were coming from this and this town. And they were landslide. They both came from the same place. And they were merchants, and they were on the ship. On the ship, one of them had met someone who had merchandise to sell, and it was a very, very high value merchandise, and he wanted 100, he wanted, what was it, 100, what did I say earlier, what was the amount? 100,000 coins. It was a huge amount of money. So he says to the Arizal, he said to that I'll sell. This guy realized that this merchandise was worth crazy amount of money. This was a very good deal, but he didn't have cash. Needing the cash, he turned to his other friend, and that guy didn't have the money with him. So he said, "Do me a favor, let me borrow me, loan me the money, and I'll pay you back after I make the deal." The guy was willing to give him the loan. He gave him the loan. He went to wherever. They both got off in two different places. He got off and he did his deal, and he could sail further. In the end, this guy bought the merchandise, came back with it. He actually made a ton of money. It was a very good deal, and he wanted to pay back the loan. The other guy never returned. Didn't return. I don't know. Maybe he was killed. Maybe the ship sunk. Whatever it was, he never came back home. There was no family. There was no Yorish to give it back. He was a single fellow. Didn't have anybody. In the end, he's walking up, not knowing what to do with the money. Doesn't know what to do, and then eventually he also passed away, not paying back the loan. What happened was, when he comes off Yanavelt, he comes up there, the other guy is there saying, "You didn't pay me back." He says, "What do you mean? I was looking high and low. Where you skipped down." In the end, but money you have to pay back, you have to pay back. So there was a decree, he said that both of them have to come back down. One came down as a girl, and one came down as a boy. He says, by the way, this answers the question if you can come back in Gilgulim in different forms. In other words, the couple that got married were these two people. That the one who borrowed came back as the girl, and they got married, and that's how she paid back the money to him, and that's why she passed away immediately after that, because that's all she needed to do there is to pay back the loan. And that's the reason why when I passed in that you should keep the money, because or else you would trouble them again to make it down again another time, another way to pay it back. Let's just solve it. So the Marshal was a little upset. He hears, and he realized, that the Arizal is, tapping the higher realms, and he sees things. The problem is, he says, then maybe and he says, and this that I said, the Eila HaMishpatim Mashatasim Lufneim, and this that I sent you, the note, the Eila HaMishpatim Mashatasim Lufneim, look at the Zohar. In the Zohar, it says on the pasuk, the Eila HaMishpatim Mashatasim Lufneim, Dahu Razav Gilgulta. This is the secret of Gilgulim. Because what's Parshas Mishpatim all about? The financial transactions. You owe money, you don't owe money. So because of that, so basically it's saying that when a rabbi paskins regarding people paying back, and so it helps when you can do a Google search, Google search, and get the background information, so you really know things from the other side. So the Marshal said, but hold it. I've been paskining shilas all the years, and I have no idea what's happening up there. Are you telling me that all my psukim is what he says to the Arizal? Are you telling me that all my psukim that I'm paskining are all invalid because I don't have this inside information? The Arizal says, no. All the psukim that come to you, Hashem makes it come to you because you don't need that information. Those cases where you need the gilkal insights as well in order to give the psak halacha, rabbi to see the inside story, they will end up by someone who can take all that into consideration. So that's the story of the holy Ariza brought over here in the Kizvei Reb Chaim. It's a new story that I've never heard before, really fascinating. Okay, let's go into Techiyas Hameisim. Okay, so Rabbi Sauer covered some really fundamentals and very beautiful stuff. I will just pick up on let's start with the essence of Techiyas Hameisim. Let's understand. Again, Rabbi Sauer spoke about the idea that the reason Techiyas Hameisim has to happen is because we have to give reward to the body as well. The body was an active participant in doing mitzvahs, and therefore you can't just reward the soul without rewarding the body. However, if that would be the complete reason, then the body could be given a reward, but it doesn't have to be given eternal reward. The deeper reason why the Techiyas Hameisim happens to Neshama B'guf is for a deeper reason, because ultimately the purpose of creation is not the spiritual world. This is already a more mystical explanation. According to the teachings of Techiyas Torah, again, according to the teachings of Techiyas Torah, the inner essence of Torah is that Techiyas Hameisim actually is the ultimate purpose for why the world was created. The purpose for why the world was created is that God himself, Hashem himself, should come down and reside in this world. What goes on in Gan Eden? What goes on in Gan Eden is that the neshamas sit in Gan Eden and they enjoy, it says, Ziv HaShechina, the radiance of the Shechina. The radiance of the Shechina, a certain prism, a certain light, a certain illumination of Hashem that shines in Gan Eden. Now we know Gan Eden is like unbelievably pleasurable. Gan Eden is incredibly pleasurable. The pleasures of Gan Eden are impossible to describe. People die to go to Gan Eden. That's how pleasurable it is. It is such an awesome place, right? So much so that we have no comparison to how amazing the pleasures are. And it goes on and on and on and on because you can't bore anybody. So the pleasures go on and on and on. The Zohar, we all know in the Yartzah we say Kaddish, and we do special things in order to elevate a neshama, because neshamas go on and on and on. Yelchu mechayil v'chayil. Neshamas go from level to level to level to level, on to infinite pleasure. Yet the entire journey is only in the Ziv HaShechina, in the ray of the Shechina. Hashem himself is not revealed in Gan Eden. Hashem is not revealed in Gan Eden. His ray is revealed in Gan Eden. And that's the chiddush of Techiyas Hameisim. That the most unbelievable thing, that the physical world is going to be a place where Hashem himself is going to reveal himself. Not in the spiritual world, in the physical world. The Hashem's very essence is going to be revealed down here. And that's why neshamas that are in Gan Eden for thousands of years are going to leave Gan Eden and come back down here. And it's not a downgrade. It's not, sacrificing the soul so that we can give some pleasure to the body. No, the neshama is going to experience such a great upgrade that the Gan Eden will be considered almost a joke compared to the level of experience of Hashem that the neshama will have in Olam Hazeh, in the physical body and soul together. Because the mistake that we live in a lot of times is that we think Hashem is spiritual. And because we think Hashem is spiritual, that's why we think, so the more spiritual you get, the more closer to Hashem is. Hashem is neither physical and neither spiritual. And Hashem decided that the combination of physical and spiritual coming together to do His will is what is what connects to Him on the deepest level, in a way that we can draw Him down to live in this world. The Medrash says Hashem wants to have a home in this world. The home that Hashem wants to have in this world is a place where Hashem lives in. You can understand the king allows people to know the king in a certain way, right? Everybody gets to know the king in the way the king wants his people to know him. He shows a certain side of himself. He dresses himself in a certain way. He projects himself in a certain way. They don't necessarily get to know the king as the king truly is behind closed doors. But when a person is living in their own home, what's the idea of a house? A home is a place where you're perfectly comfortable, where you are the way you are. You're not adjusting, you're not modified. You're not living in a modified state of existence. You just are as you are. So the essence of Techiyas Hameisim is it's the time that Hashem will fully manifest, to reveal himself down here to neshamas in gufim, to souls in bodies. And therefore, the three stages, Rabbi Sauer spoke about 3 periods of time. Olam Hazeh, this physical world, is the world in which there is a battle of good and evil. Yetzer Tov and Yetzer Hara. This is where the battle is. And the world is not perfect. That's why there's illness, there is disease, there is all kinds of pain and suffering and all kinds of darkness. And also sin. This is all because our world is not perfect, because this world has been messed up since the Chet of Eitz Hadas, the world has not yet reached its shleimus. What's Yemaisa Mashiach? What's the time of Mashiach, which we discussed, Rabbi Sauer discussed, is a period unto its own. Before Techiyas Hameisim, the period of called Yemaisa Mashiach, the period of Yemaisa Mashiach is the period of shleimus ha'olam. The world will reach its perfected place, its state, and the human race, the human being will reach his perfected state. What's the perfected state that we will reach in the days of Mashiach? We will go back to Adam Arishon in Gan Eden. We will achieve back, we will come full circle and come back to where Adam Arishon was in Gan Eden, and we will be one notch higher than Adam Arishon in Gan Eden, even in Yemos Mashiach. What will be the notch higher that we will be in Gan Eden more than Adam Arishon? I'm sorry, what will be our advantage in Yemos Mashiach, the days of Mashiach, over Adam Arishon in Gan Eden? Very simple. Is that Adam Arishon, when he was in Gan Eden, didn't have the experience yet, and therefore he was able to sin. We're going to have 5,500 years of knowledge of how foolish it is to become separated from Hashem, and we're not going to be able to do it again. In Yemos Mashiach, we're not going to be able to do it again. So we're going to be already in a safe zone, and we will not be able to sin, although the potential for Ra still exists in the world in Yemos Mashiach. The prophecy which says that Hashem is going to remove the spirit of impurity completely from the world happens only in the third stage, which is Techiyas Hameisim. So in the days of Mashiach, we will all attain the level of shleimus, of perfection. Based on all the mitzvahs and the good deeds that we did, we will be in a perfect state. But as Rabbi Sauer mentioned, what's then going to happen during that time? When we are going to be perfect and the world will be perfect, then we are going to be able to observe mitzvahs in the perfect way. Which means that we have never been able to observe mitzvahs to its fullest perfection. So it's almost like when we think about Adam Arishon, when Hashem created Adam Arishon, and he put him in Gan Eden. Hashem created Adam Arishon to give him reward. Hashem didn't create him to give him reward. Hashem created him that he should work, he should serve him. Adam Arishon was put into Gan Eden of the Ulashamra. He needed to serve Hashem, to be the gardener, which Chazal said to learn Torah and do mitzvahs, whatever Torah and mitzvahs meant before the Torah was given. But Adam Arishon was meant to keep the Torah and do the mitzvahs. And he would generate his reward. Later would be the reward, but then was the time of work. Now what happened was, because of a mess up, we fell from that level. We fell down, low. We lost that greatness. And now we're doing repair. So all the work we're doing now is not even the work. It's the pre-work so that we can get the world back to a place where we can start doing the work that Hashem intended to begin with. To make the world back into the Gan Eden, so now we can start working. And that means, and we're going to do that where? In the third day Sunday. So we're going to be able to keep all the mitzvahs, all 613 mitzvahs. And the main reason why it's going to be so perfect is because we're not going to have Yetzer Hara. Although Rabbi Sauer meant there is a level of Kira, which is, but it's it'll be in a complete different level. It'll be very, very, very difficult to say. It will take a lot of work. If someone really, really works very hard, they can still do it. But it won't be natural like Chas v'Shalom like it is now. And as a result of that, that will be the time of shleimus, of avodas ha'adam. And then we come to the reward. What's reward? Techiyas Hameisim is reward. Resurrection time. Because that's when we will come. That's already the Ariza. This is what the Ariza, the Balatanya, Alter Rebbe, in chapter 36, he says that Yemaisa Mashiach is the tachlis of making the world perfect, but it's not yet reward. And that's when we're going to do mitzvahs. The reward starts by Techiyas Hameisim. And that's already the Zman of reward, the time of the greatest reward. It's the time of the highest revelation of Hashem, and so on and so on. Now, when is that going to happen? So once we have a little bit of a clarity of what the concept of Techiyas Hameisim is, now the question is, when is that going to happen? When is that going to take place? So the first of all, the Gemara and the Zohar speak about the order of events leading us into, there's a bunch of promises over here. There's a bunch of things that are supposed to happen. We know there's supposed to be the ingatherings of the exile. That means all Jews have to come to Eretz Yisrael. We know there has to be the third temple has to be built. We know there has to be Techiyas Hameisim. So how exactly, what's going to be the order? So the Zohar says, this is a Zohar in Shmos. No, it's the Zohar in Bereshit. The Zohar says the order of the way things are going to be is as follows. Hashem is going to come the time that Hashem wants to bring back Knesset Yisrael. The terminology that the Zohar is using, Hashem will want to be poked his Shekhinah. The Shekhinah is the Shekhinah, for those who study a little mysticism, though HaKadosh Baruch Hu is considered the male side of Hashem. Shekhinah is considered the feminine side, which is the root of all of our neshamas. The Shekhinah goes together with us into exile. And when Hashem is going to want to bring back the Shekhinah, He's going to tell her to go back to her house. And because the first thing that's going to happen, the first major event that's going to happen when Moshiach comes and he's fully revealed, the first thing that's going to happen, the Zohar says, is Beis HaMikdash Yizbnei Bekad Mesa. The first thing is going to be the third temple. That means not all Jewish people are going to be already gathered to Eretz Yisrael during the time of the building of the Beis HaMikdash. I would imagine that all Jews that want to go are going to be able to go to the Beis HaMikdash. But we witness today that there's a lot of Jews who are so sadly disconnected. So Kibbutz Goliath means bringing all these Jews back as well. And in order for them to be interested in the Beis HaMikdash and so on and so forth. Now, obviously, when the Beis HaMikdash is built, it's going to be built with spectacular miracles and unbelievable revelations. I would imagine that the Kibbutz Goliath is going to come very quickly because everybody can be part of it, even people that didn't keep any mitzvahs or feel no identification with Judaism. However, if it's going to be a little bit more natural and it's going to flow into a more of a, like there's machloikas, how there's two opinions that the Beis HaMikdash gets built by humans, or it comes down completely from heaven, or if it's both. Again, these things are vague, so we don't know exactly. So the main point over here is the first thing that's going to happen is the third temple is going to be built. The next thing that's going to happen is Kibbutz Goliath, and the Eibishter are going to bring back the exiles, which means that no Jew will be left behind. Every single person is going to come back to Eretz Yisrael. Obviously, coming back to Eretz Yisrael means coming back to Judaism and coming back to a full-fledged connection to Hashem, and so on and so forth. And it's learned out from a pasuk. It says, "Boinei Yerushalayim Hashem." Hashem builds Jerusalem, which, including in building of Jerusalem, is building of the Beis HaMikdash. Nitchei Yisrael Yechanes. And then after Yerushalayim is built, Nitchei Yisrael, the scattered of Israel, Yechanes, Hashem is going to gather. And then what does it say after that? Hashem is going to heal the brokenhearted. What does that mean? How is Hashem going to heal the brokenhearted? By bringing everybody back. So that's the pasuk says. Hashem. So the healing of the broken heart. You know, people go to Shiva to try to comfort someone, and everybody knows it's not the real comfort. The real comfort is only when they're back. Only Hashem can do the ultimate nachamu. Only Hashem can be menachem, and that's when Hashem is going to bring everybody back in. So the Zohar says specifically that Techiyas Hameisim is going to happen after, and it's so is matter from many places, Medrash Tanchuma, in Parshas Noach, and in many places that this is the order. How long after Kibbutz Goliath, the gathering of the exiles, will Techiyas Hameisim happen? So Techiyas Hameisim, the time, again, the allotted official time for Techiyas Hameisim is, the Zohar says, 40 years after. And here the Zohar says the Lashon that it's going to happen 40 years later, after Kibbutz Goliath, after the gathering of the exiles. So exactly what determines the gathering of the exiles? How do we decide that the gathering of the exiles is over? Again, first Beis HaMikdash, then gathering the exiles. Not exactly sure of the time between that. I haven't found the marker for that. What the space is between the building of the Beis HaMikdash and the full return of the exiles. But in between the return of the exiles and Techiyas Hameisim, the official time, again, we're going to see there are exceptions to that. But the official time for Techiyas Hameisim is a 40-year period later. And again, there are Svarim, and I think Reb Sati Goin even says this, that if the Golus is very, very long, and if the exile is very long, then it's possible, or it says it's sort of that we don't have these, and there's shorter time that we're dealing with, that these things can happen earlier and they don't have to take so long. Yeah. Yeah. Why should we think any different? And that's why hold it. That's why I want to finish that way. But this seems to be the ultimate premise. Well, we see if that holds out. As I'm mentioning now, it's possible that since the Gullus has been going and going and going. Today, Rabbi Sauer was talking, and we pointed out that people make a mistake and they think Mashiach has to come by the year 6000. That's a terrible mistake. The year 6000 is already past Mashiach's time. That's already the time that's post Mashiach. Mashiach has to be a period that happens in the sixth millennium. Now, there's 217 years left for Hameisim Mashiach, which is very little. The Chazal tell us that the last 2,000 years is potential Hameisim Mashiach. We have a tiny sliver left. If that's the case, it's very possible that things will be rushed to compensate for the length of the Golus. But again, the essential time the Zohar talks of is 40 years. Now, when we say that the essential time that the Zohar says is 40 years, there is a very interesting Radvaz. Radvaz was one of the early Acharonim, and the Radvaz writes this Chiani Kabalti, beautiful words of it's in Rabbi Sauer's handout that he gave out earlier. Mechachamim Rishonim. I have a Kabbalah. I heard this from the earliest. The two Techiyas, there will be two Techiyas Hameisim. There's going to be a Techiyas Hameisim that's going to happen close to the time of Mashiach, which means that together, not close to the sign, can be moments before or can be moments after Mashiach's revelation in this world. But there is going to be a Techiyas Hameisim that happens immediately. L'tzadikim hashamesu begolos, to the great tzadikim who passed away during the exile, the savlu hatzaris, the people that suffered all the pains and the suffering, they didn't see one good day for the Jewish people. If you think about it, we say the kiddush of Tisha B'Av, we're going to be saying, we shouldn't say this year we're just going to be dancing Tisha B'Av B'ezras Hashem. But if you remember from last year, if you looked at the kiddush, you see people, the various different people, the people of the Crusaders, it talks about the horrible communities. These people didn't see one nice day in their lives. And they lived their lives of Kiddush Hashem all this time. And they suffered so much. And they were such mysterious nefesh. So the Ravaz is basically saying, how can it be that all these people are going to miss out on the most glorious moment? They're going to miss the party. They're going to come after it's all over, after the fireworks are over. They're coming back. Party's over. Okay, it's going to be nice and wonderful. But like, imagine, everybody wants to see the moment when the whole world will stand in shock. And when everybody will be like, wow, they've been battering the Jewish people. They've been persecuting us. They've been this. And suddenly everything will flip over. And everybody will be, it's a moment you don't want to miss. You want to be there. You want to hear how CNN will deal with it. Right? You really want to know what's going to happen when this is what is going to be. How the UN will take to it, how the BBC will take to it, all these inyanim. So he says, they should see this greatness. The Yisku Lido is Beis HaMikdash. They will get to see the Beis HaMikdash B'tikunoi. They should be able to be there during the time that we're finally doing Karbanos. Again, according to some opinions, by the time Techiyas Hameisim happens, where there's no more mitzvahs. There's a question. There's a big argument whether mitzvahs continue or not in the time of Techiyas Hameisim, in the time of the resurrection. So imagine if these people only come back by Techiyas Hameisim, they never get to see the time when the Jewish people are finally going to be able to do mitzvahs b'shleimus. Therefore, he says, no, the tzaddikim are going to come back who passed away in the time of Golus. They're going to come back. Now, the question is, what does he mean by tzaddikim? Are we talking only super tzaddikim, or are we talking about good yidden? The question is, we don't have an exact determination. See, all these things are vague. We don't have an exact determination of what's called tzaddikim. And these people, it says, he brings this from the Ritva. Ritva is one of the Rishonim, the Shem Rabbi. So, anyways, so that's going to be the first Techiyas Hameisim, and that's where, hey, for sure, during that Techiyas Hameisim, Moshe Rabbeinu is coming, Aaron HaKohen is coming, and so on and so forth. Why? Because Chazal say that many questions are going to be regarding the Beis HaMikdash, and we're not going to know how to do. Chazal say we're going to ask Moshe and Aaron. Moshe and Aaron. If Moshe and Aaron are going to come back only at the very end, how will Moshe and Aaron be able to give us guidance? So therefore, the assumption is that Moshe and Aaron are going to be from the first ones to come back in Techiyas Hameisim. Regarding Moshe Rabbeinu, there might be a delay, as we're going to see soon, that there might be a delay in Moshe Rabbeinu coming, because Moshe Rabbeinu might have to be bringing his entire generation who died in the desert with him. And according to the Zohar, that group of people are coming, but they're coming a little later. Okay, there's an order. This is all discussed. These things are discussed. Who comes first, who comes second, but we're going to get to that. Anyways, he brings, that's the first Techiyas Hameisim, that there will be tzaddikim that will get up immediately. Anyways, and then he brings, there will be a later Techiyas Hameisim whenever the time for Techiyas Hameisim is, at that later time. I just wanted to quote that to you. Okay, so we have a general, that concept, this man of Techiyas Hameisim is an era after Yemos HaMashiach. We have a concept of 40 years. There is also the idea that there is a Techiyas Hameisim that's earlier for tzaddikim. Exactly who the tzaddikim are, I don't know how to determine that, but this is what it says. Now, regarding the order. Oh, who's getting up first? What's the order? Is there an order, and how? So in general, there's a very interesting question in the Gemara. The Gemara in Mesechtes. The Gemara in Mesechtes. Where is this Mesechtes? What is it? Mesechtes Ksubis. The Gemara in Mesechtes Ksubis brings two opinions regarding if people who are buried outside of Eretz Yisrael. Don't get scared when I say this, okay? Because the Gemara, the conclusion is that no, yeah, everybody has Techiyas Hameisim. But the Gemara starts off in one opinion that says, Rabbi Lazar, who says that only those who passed in Eretz Yisrael are going to have Techiyas Hameisim. Those who passed outside of Eretz Yisrael don't have any Techiyas Hameisim, or at least if they're not buried in Eretz Yisrael. That's why a lot of people want to be buried in Eretz Yisrael. So Rabbi Lazar makes, and he learns it out from a pasuk, from the Tzati Tzivi in the Eretz HaChayim, that I will give my special power of resurrection only the Eretz HaChayim in the land of the living. No. According to what the Gemara says initially, the Gemara says Rabbi Lazar seems to imply that there is no Techiyas Hameisim for anybody outside of Eretz Yisrael. Rabbi Abba Bar Mamel, who's another one of the sages, argues, and he says no. He brings another pasuk where it says that it mentions Meisa Yechayim. Here it is: Yichyu Meisayich. Your dead will come alive. Nivlasi. Your corpses, Yokumin, will get up. So Rabbi Abba says, why does it say it twice? The first part of the pasuk is referring to those who are interned in Eretz Yisrael, and those who are interned in Chutz La'aretz, outside of Eretz Yisrael, will also get up. Fine. But then the Gemara asks, how can Rabbi Lazar say there's no Techiyas Hameisim for people outside of Eretz Yisrael? It's impossible to say that. They're going to ask him the question. The righteous of Chutz La'aretz, Einam Chayim, they're not going to be resurrected. You're excluding them all from Techiyas Hameisim. How can you say that? Amar Rabbi Law, so Rabbi Law comes to explain Rabbi Lazar, and the halacha is like Rabbi Lazar, by the way, as we're going to see. In other words, the accepted opinion is not like Rabbi Abba Bar Mamel, who says there's no difference, everybody's the same. No, the halacha is like Rabbi Lazar. There is a difference between Eretz Yisrael and Chutz La'aretz, and outside of Eretz Yisrael. However, let's see. So the Gemara asks, they're not going to get up? They will get up. But the place, what Rabbi Lazar meant was, the place, the energy of Techiyas Hameisim, that power of resurrection is going to. In other words, it's only, the neshama coming back into the body will only be in Eretz Yisrael. It's not going to be outside of the land of Israel. How are the people who passed away in Chutz La'aretz going to experience resurrection? Their bodies are somehow going to make their way under the ground to Eretz Yisrael. And only Hashem obviously will collect Malachim or whatever will kind of help them go. Like it says, Malach Gavriel will be the one who will be directing and bringing all the bones or the whatever and bringing them over to Eretz Yisrael so that over there can be a Techiyas Hameisim. Maskeva Rabbi Abba, so Rabbi Abba says, Gilgal Tzaddik and Tzari, that's a painful thing. We know that Yaakov Avinu, Rashi brings it. One of the reasons why Yaakov Avinu said, "Do not leave me in Mitzrayim," was because he said, "I don't want to have the pain of Gilgal." Gilgal over here means the rolling of the bodies to Eretz Yisrael, which seems to be a very uncomfortable thing. But no, yeah. So first of all, body is gone. So the question is, where does it start to be reconstructed? The neshama is definitely be given to it in Eretz Yisrael. Where is the body starting to be reconstructed? It could be that the reconstruction happens back in Chutz La'aretz, and the bodies come already reconstructed and roll to Eretz Yisrael. So if that's the case, it's painful. So the Gemara says it's painful. Rabbi says, "Mechilos nasa lahem," tunnels will be made for them, the karka under the ground, and they will. And Rashi says it means that the bodies will get up in Chutz La'aretz. They will go through the tunnels underground to Eretz Yisrael. They will come up with and the neshama will be given to them. In other words, dead bodies somehow will be walking, which whatever that means. Zombies will be moving underground through subterranean tunnels, going to Eretz Yisrael, and from there will get up. In other words, what basically says is as follows. But that's only those who go first class. The first class people will go in tunnels. Those who have economy are being rolled, and that's painful. Okay, so and that's the difference of tzaddikim. So again, the halacha is the way we accept it. The halacha it's hard to say halacha when it comes to these things, but the accepted. The reason the Lubavitcher Rebbe says the proof that we pass like Rebbe Lazar that Techiyas made in Israel is because you see many of the Amoraim are discussing his opinion, and when you see there are two opinions in Chazal and one opinion everybody jumps on and everybody's discussing it, is a sign that the halacha is like that person. So the halacha is that Techiyas Hameisim only happens in Eretz Yisrael. How do you get there? So again, there's two possible ways of going. One is painful and one is not painful. The one is painful is the one that the bodies have to go and go to Eretz Yisrael, and over there they will come up, or they will go through the tunnels, and as a result of going through the tunnels, it's interesting. The Rebbe once said regarding the previous against the Ohel. So the Rebbe said regarding the previous that the place when you go there is considered Eretz Yisrael. You're not in Chutz La'aretz when you're there. The reason you're not in Chutz La'aretz is because since there's tunnels, and when the halacha is when a tunnel is opened in the Beis HaMikdash, when you have a room that's outside of the Beis HaMikdash, but the opening is in that room, the whole area is considered already that holiness. So what that means, the Eretz Yisrael extends through these tunnels. So when you go to a kever of a tzaddik, all tzaddikim, you're actually standing in Eretz Yisrael. So if you want to visit Eretz Yisrael, you can always visit Eretz Yisrael. It's much cheaper. You can go to a tzaddik who you know is a real tzaddik, and therefore there is mechilos. There is the tunnels that are there, and it seems like since the potential tunnel is there, it's already considered now that there is a tunnel over there, Eretz Yisrael, and therefore it's Eretz Yisrael. Very interesting, fascinating thing. Okay, so we know where Techiyas Hameisim is going to happen. We are told again that it's going to be now. How? Now, is it the same body or is it not? Here's the thing. We know the Gemara discusses people who don't have a portion in Olam Haba. According to the opinion that Olam Haba means Techiyas Hameisim, which is, again, the Rambam is the only opinion who holds that Olam Haba is not Techiyas Hameisim. But according to most opinions, Olam Haba is Techiyas Hameisim. And on that we say, Chas v'shalom, there are people who don't have a chelik in Olam Haba. Since we say there are people who don't have a chelik in Olam Haba, Chas v'shalom, so what does that mean? Are there really people who don't have, Jews who will not be resurrected? So here it's important to recognize and understand, and there's many proofs to this. I'm not going to go into all of them. There's a long, long discussion on it. That really every single yid comes back to Techiyas Hameisim. There is no such a thing, because there's no such a thing as a neshama that's destroyed. A neshama can never, ever be destroyed. It's indestructible. So a soul will always come back. Every neshama is coming back. Even the neshamas that it says regarding to them kares, they get cut off, it does not mean that the neshama gets extinguished. What does it mean? You see, Techiyas Hameisim, the Zohar says, doesn't, and it's also the Yeshua ben Hanania, and it was asked by the Techiyas Hameisim doesn't just mean that neshamas come down in a body. It means that the very same DNA, the very same body that you had before is going to be recrafted and rebuilt. It's the same body, not another body. And I read you Lashon of the Zohar, a very powerful Lashon of the Zohar, very, very beautiful, where the Zohar says like this. And let it swell the spirit of those who say that Hashem is not going to make Techiyas Hameisim. And they ask, how is Hashem going to make a new creature? How's Hashem going to do it? That's what they ask. He says, let these fools come, and these that are far from the Torah, and say like this. We all read the story a few weeks ago in Parshas Korach about Aaron's staff that was put into the Kodesh HaKadosh. It was a dead piece of wood that never was alive. And what happened? Hashem made Techiyas Hameisim. Hashem made that staff started blossoming almonds. It became a plant. Even though it was a dead piece of wood, it grew. So the Zohar says like this, that wood it wasn't from an almond tree. It wasn't ever had almonds. It was just a plant. And yet it came alive. And Hashem put into it a spirit for it to grow and so on and so forth. He says, these bodies that had already ruch and nishmas and kadishin, they had already holy souls, and they kept the Torah, and they studied Torah day and night, and they were buried in the ground, for sure they're going to get up. But then he continues, Amar Reb Chia says, and not only that, it's the same body that's going to be reconstructed. Because it says, the verse is, Yichyu Meisecha, you're dead. It's not going to be a new body. It's the same body. Yichyu Meisecha, your body is going to become back alive. The Loiksiv Yivra, it doesn't say Hashem will create a new body. It says Yichyu. They will be realivened. Okay. How is that? So the Gemara says, so the Zohar says,